Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jax and John podcast. Today we are with our new guest, Silver Crown King. Introduce yourself, Silver.
Nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you again.
Exactly. Yes, it's been quite a while.
So let's see here. What would be the best place to start? The beginning, the early days, when you first joined. Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. When did you make it out of spawn? I don't remember honestly.
I made it out of spawn in very early 2014, if I can recall correctly. It's been a long time. My memory from then is not as good.
Right.
I originally joined on another account, and then I joined on the main account that actually was mine. I managed to escape spawn after getting killed by a player named Fubster. I managed to find some food because at the time it was very hard to escape spawn. One time I managed to escape and somehow died, and then I got out again and I ran straight into a Fubster, and after asking me some questions, he killed me on the spot, and then I eventually made my way to a place called Unity, which is a small little base by spawn.
Oh, do you remember there being a ton of spruce trees scattered everywhere at spawn?
Yes, that was one of the things at the time. I also remember Chris Layton spamming in
Yeah.
chat too.
Okay, good. Yes, that was Pyro's doing. Massive spawn spruce farm. That was just a lark that he did with an imp in early 2014. So like right around the time you would have joined. Man, that brings me back.
How did you discover 2B2T?
I originally played another Minecraft server, and people told me about it on, believe it or not, 4chan's V's section. So I logged on to check it out for myself to see how hard it was, because people were complaining they couldn't get out of spawn.
How the times have changed. My oh my. Speaking of 4chan, about what time did you feel that the server had like a heavy 4chan cultural influence in the earlier days, especially? About what time did you think that kind of faded away and disappeared?
By the end of 2015,
Ah, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of shenanigans and betrayal that happened in 2015 that really kind of cemented everything the way that it would end up being.
it was very quality entertainment in chat, that's
Oh,
for
yes.
sure.
What was the first place you called home on 2B2T?
I'd say Unity. That was the first base I went to. It was very close to spawn. It was like under 4K. There weren't people there that were trying to kill me all the time, and it was the one place I noticed that all the spawn killers didn't chase me to, so I figured it was a good place as all to start at.
And how was the base like? It was just a basic farm with some trees, or?
It was pretty much an underground base cut into a hill. It had basic crops, its own little pet dog, some cows, smelting and stuff. It seemed to be, when I went there, mostly deserted, and there was a few other people there though with me, although I didn't see them on all the time.
And how did you get established?
Mostly for the stuff I found when I first started out, I grinded on my own and I used a basic hacked client and just tried to eke out a living when I was at Unity and not get killed by other people who would occasionally come to check it out. It really, at the time, you were pretty much on your own. You didn't have anyone to give you a guide or anything. It was just live to survive another day.
That feeling of uncertainty, you just never knew when things were going to go belly up or someone was going to get you. Oh man, I missed that.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Death could come at any moment, and I learned that firsthand many times. I was not some genius that escaped spawn quickly. I died more than once, but it was still entertaining, and just the thrill that kept me going. It was a very fun server to play at the time.
Oh, I know, I missed it so much. So then, I guess nowadays you're on what, Constantium?
I don't even play much Constantium anymore. I just play on a basic 1.19 Minecraft server because Constantium wouldn't update, and just the climate of the server I found just not worth playing on anymore.
Okay, so after Unity, what was your next base on 2B2T?
Basically, while I was at Unity, a few players mentioned to me that I basically had a small relationship in chat with. We're just talking with each other. They thought about starting a base, and we worked on a location, and they invited me, so I showed up, the Cool Kids Club, and that was the next place I was at.
Who were the base members at the Cool Kids Club, and what is your overall feeling about the base?
The members of from what I can recall, I'm sorry if I forgot anyone, it's been a long time. Russell League, Linksman, MUSNC, myself, James Russells came later, Fit, although by the time he went by Silent Pedro, and Clyde. The base was just basically a very typical base for the time. Do what you want. Don't cause anyone else any other problems. We don't care. It was a very disorganized base, but it was very fun. We didn't have a Skype chat. There's no Discord chats like we have today where everything is so organized and there's no ranks and stuff. It was just a few people messaging each other once they got to a place and decided what they wanted to do.
Man, I miss those days. Oh my lord. The times where you could just do whatever and you'd have like 5 people around you and that was the end of it.
Yeah, I know. Even when I was walking over there, because it was a long walk. At the time, even though the base day is like, what, 1.3 mil out, at the time, that was a stupid long walk, especially for players that did not have all the exploits and all the cool stuff and had like your basic Huzuni hacked client or Notice, which was another one at the time. That was a bit of a walk. I remember going to the first spot there and then dying just as soon as I got there. Somehow I walked over lava on the road and died, and then I had to go all the way back. Oh, man.
Yeah, back then the world was just so much larger place than it is today. You didn't have a travel exploit. You didn't have, horses were server side. You couldn't just hack your way there. Distance meant something in those days, definitely.
And the way I got there, I just held a button down, just walking.
Yeah, auto walking.
Yep. And starvation was a big thing. I remember having to go to like these special little places for food that I had to just take screenshots of just so I knew where food was so I wouldn't starve to get there.
I miss those days so much. It was a type of hardier survival that you just don't get.
Exactly. And even getting out of spawn was actually legitimately hard. It's not like just jumping in and out of a few blocks and you're gone. There were people looking to kill you. Everyone you found was better armored than you and was waiting to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
And food was, if you found food, someone knew about it and they were coming to kill you.
Stop. I can only be so erect. No, but in all honesty, yeah, I wish those days, like, part of it is just how Mojang has changed the game, and part of it is just people's techs, people's ideas, people's tactics. Everything has just changed, and there's no...
The innocence is gone.
Yeah, the innocence
is really
gone.
what it is gone. It's really what it is, because I didn't know everything. I just joined and treated it like a normal other server and didn't give much thought because the server I played on before had stopped playing and I missed the people on there. So I just started fresh on a new place and then I heard about it.
After the Cool Kids Club grift, where did you went?
I went to a base called New Zion, where it was the first New Zion, not the one that you'll see in the archive. It was a base that had a bunch of very interesting people. It was me, Tristan, Jared, and Police Mike was there too. After that, I went to a base that was part of Brand's group. He invited me to some small base at spawn, but sadly, as soon as I showed up, it was blown up. And I went to a place called King's Landing. Jack had also invited me to the first Spacefolk. And I've pretty much, after King's Landing got griefed, I pretty much stayed with Jack most of my entire time on 2B2T, minus going to Anvil with a player named Parthicus.
Speaking of Jack, what's your memories with building with Jack and with Spacefolk? Like, how do you remember those times?
For Spacefolk, for me, it was very impressive. For me, as a totally new, I'd say as a kind of a mid-tier player at that point, I didn't know like how big bases really were. Like I had an idea from talking with people, and I knew there was stuff in the end because I explored around the end. But when I first saw Spacefolk, I was really impressed that someone had managed to make all this stuff in a place that was over the void. Even after Jack showed me how to glide and stuff, it was tense, to say the least, to just trust to fly over the void. And I died a few times learning how to get there and eventually made it on my own. It was a learning experience.
Oh yeah, those first void walking days were something else.
You couldn't practice it either. You had to do it or die.
At the time, to move at the end, you used the cheat called Glide?
Mm-hmm. It was from a client called Vapid, which was originally started by Pyrobyte, and then Kino took it over. It was a client that had a very unique gliding exploit, and it basically just prolonged your fall. So if you started from somewhere high up enough, you could just glide through the air almost like an elytra in many ways to your spawn.
Oh yeah, that was funny enough. We had sort of a semi-elytra fly or elytra-esque situation about a year before those were even officially introduced. It was wild.
It was, for me, I didn't know it existed. I would always get to places with pearls or just bridged around in the end. And I did snoop around in the end a lot, but not in the direction that Jack was. So it was when he mentioned it to me and told me about where the chords, it was a surprise. What was so interesting, as I remember, is that when Jack told me about Stupid Walrus's base in the end, where did Talo have that place originally? I cannot recall.
It was Stupid
And
Walrus and Talo took it
yeah,
over.
I walked over there. I was surprised to see all the bedrock because I never went in that direction and I thought it was all void. So when I walked over the bedrock, I'm like, wow, someone had actually made a base out in the end. That was serious. It was really impressive.
When you finally managed to land safely there, what was like the first thing that you went and did? I do vaguely remember you did something. I want to see if you remember it or not.
First thing I did was asking you what you needed for supplies because I came with supplies and
Oh, yeah.
I asked about kind of redstone you had there and some things like that because at the time I was still big with redstone because I was still missing my gold farm. So I wanted to do redstone and you told me I could build at a certain spot downstairs and pretty much I just walked around and checked out everything and asked where I could build because at the time when you got invited to bases, it was expected for you to build right away, at least from the groups I was in.
I remember you also tried to alter some of the stone and the dirt or something. You said like wood and dirt shouldn't touch each other. I just that was funny to
Oh,
me.
wow. Wow. I wish I'd remembered that.
But hey, you know that
I
happened.
only know a little bit about that. I think it was some kind of decoration thing, and you told me not to touch it, so I didn't do it. You had me make a stone machine downstairs instead, and some other
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, we were hurting for stone until like CC2
Yeah.
showed up. Oh man, those were
I
the
remember
days.
Pyrobyte AFK in there too.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
seeing him just AFKing, like on his throne, and then as Zarviar occasionally logging on and off, and it was crazy to say the least. And that was also the first time I actually got Skype to talk to people on 2B2T. Until then, all I had was in-game chat.
Simpler age, simpler age.
Yeah, we'll never get it back either.
Oh, I know. That's definitely the worst part is that what you realize once it's gone, when you lose something, it's never coming back. And
Yep.
you just have to make do, I guess.
And after that, you went, after the grief of Spacefolk, you were a member of King's Landing. So it was funded by Allmonger.
It was a collaboration between Ormonger and a player named Bren Illen. King's Landing was basically Bran trying to be the person that bridged all the groups together, for better or worse. He had a unique group of people there. Me, Baloney Pony, who came from the base Uber, which was a gold farm that was at the same time the Cool Kids Club was up. He had Ormonger, Khaleesi, Zarviar, Russell League. Oh man, he had some other people too. I'm trying to recall their names. Warren and some other players too, and of
Tristan
course
and
Tristan.
Clyde.
Yeah, of course too. Tristan, Clyde, and even Pop Bob was invited, despite some, how should we say, negative input from other base members.
Oh man, that base, I knew I'd been invited to it. Obviously, I knew that base was gonna be trouble. Just something
You
about it.
mentioned it to me in
Yeah.
private chat that you know that base is eventually going to die. And I
Yeah.
said, yep. And a big mistake of mine, and this is something I wish that I've seen with other people too and newer players, if you know a base is doomed, don't do things to try to keep the base going longer than it should. And Bran was trying to make them all behave in one Skype chat. It was both hilarious and cursed.
So after King's Landing, you went to Spacefolk 2, or you were at...
If I recall correctly, when King's Landing fell, I had already an account with Jack at the new island he was making, and he was having me lava cast and do stuff. And I was warning him about how King's Landing ended because it was a pretty awful way how that base fell out. And he was making the island, if I recall. Spacefolk 2 came
Right.
after that.
They were simultaneous.
Yeah.
Well, the island was Spacefalk 2, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I remember just how we were getting all the items there and just the secrecy that was needed. People were more active. I'd say that was one of the most active times that everyone from Spacefolk that was in the original group was doing something to help with Spacefolk 2.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And did you build anything there? Like, you had Jack filling the island?
I helped Jack fill the island and lava cast the island he had there, but no, I did not make anything there of my own. For all the Spacefolk projects, I did not build anything of my own, and I just wanted to do my best to help Jack finish his builds.
I kind of wouldn't have minded if you'd made something, but at the same time, it's fine.
I didn't want to get in the way of your work.
Well, I mean, you make it sound like I'm a Da Vinci-esque
No,
figure who you
I
would
no,
step on
but I
the
know you
toes
had a
of.
plan, and if I
Yeah,
was building and doing other stuff, that would have gotten in the way of it. There was other places I were building at anyway, so it just worked.
true. Well, hey, you're far more self-aware and self-conscious than some people.
I try.
So after Spacefolk 2, after the grief and the backdoor drama,
There
did
was
you...
one more base. There was one more base before I left 2B2T, and that was KGB. Brand made one last gasp attempt to get everyone back together for one more go. After King's Landing apologized to us to how it ended and said he wouldn't invite anyone that would cause friction. Sadly, we all fell for it, so we showed up and did one more base. This was around the time that Jack was finishing the island, and that base was something else. If I know you've both been on the archive and you've seen Kenigrad base, but that place was nuts, a whole new level. I remember telling you about it, Jack, and just all the work that was put into that place.
And I was
When
like,
that
yeah,
place,
I'll wait for it when it goes belly up and
yeah, you were right. You almost guessed almost exactly when bad stuff started to happen too, and it was a shame because there was a lot of players there.
it was the same two people though.
You're
The
right.
same two people were invited to
But
both
he got,
faces.
yeah, I know, and it pissed me off. But at least he was managed to do something impossible. He managed to get Orr and Sato in the same place.
Oh, I know, it was wild.
I
Brand could
couldn't
make
believe it.
miracles if he wasn't such a doofus.
I know. He really tried to be a good politician about it, but it backfired. I also forgot to mention, I'm sorry, the lands too. I briefly was able to see the lands before it was griefed, thanks to the bed exploit. It was really funny. Tristan teasing me saying I would never be able to make it to the lands. So when I managed to get there, he was on and he knew I was there somehow, which was hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of that was very kind of suspect. How
Yeah.
we all know that they had access to op and stuff by that point.
Yeah.
Simply because Jared was like, that was right before Jared was gonna grief imps. And when I interviewed James, he mentioned that he, Canes, and Spartan got to imps in October, about 2 months before Jared got there in December to do what he did, and that them arriving there basically is what set everybody off at the
Makes sense.
imps base, whatever.
It
And
was-
so that's around the
yeah.
time they got their duplicate put on 2B2T itself. And that's when
Yeah.
they gained access to the server.
Yeah, it was so crazy too because I actually saw the night. I remember sending you pictures of imps the night before Jared griefed it. I managed to get there first before him and take pictures of imps before it was blown up. And that was another place that it was neat to see.
Yeah, it was. Even though a lot of it was kind of soulless and empty, it still was an interesting base to see.
Yeah,
Never meet your
never
heroes.
meet your heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, even
I
if they're a
always want to
base.
talk to the people there. Yeah, I know.
Hey everybody, if you would kindly leave a like and a comment down below telling me what you all loved so much about this interview. And also, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe and follow us both on TikTok and on our Twitters as well. If you would like to interact with the build, you can join our Patreon and be allowed access to it every time we film these. Thank you all so much for watching and have a great day.